The following show is for educational purposes only. It is not intended to diagnose nor treat any medical condition. Any information or recommendations provided should always be discussed with your healthcare professional. Welcome to the Patient Talks. I'm Physician Assistant Frank Smith. It's Wellness Week, and on this week's episode, we're going to be discussing sleep hygiene. A good restful sleep is one of the linchpins of our health, and it makes sense considering 1/3 of our lives are spent sleeping. But trying to get to sleep is a multi-billion-dollar industry in the United States alone. Whether it's expensive mattresses, high-dollar pillows, minerals, supplements, or even prescription medications, a lot of money is spent chasing a good night's sleep. But as always in medicine, the best treatment is the one that the patient doesn't have to have. Meaning, if there's things that a patient can change on their own that will correct the underlying problem, we're always well ahead of the game. So today, we're going to be discussing good sleep hygiene, the rules that you need to follow to make it easier to initiate sleep, to fall asleep. I'm going to start by covering very briefly some things that you already know. And if you're not doing them, you need to start doing them. Number one, stimulants such as caffeine need to be ended within about 3 hours before you get ready to go to bed. That one's kind of a no-brainer. If we're taking something to stimulate us, it makes it harder to fall asleep. The other one is screen time. Everybody has heard that watching TV or being on your phone or tablet for an extended period of time before going to bed makes it harder. Now, most electronic devices today do have what's called a blue filter setting, and the studies do show if you use that, it can have the same impact as not spending screen time. So be sure on your phones, tablets, to switch them over to the blue light filters. Most TVs don't have it, so frankly, you need to limit your television time for about an hour before you go to sleep. Now then, let's get into some things that you may not already know, what I call the 4 rules of good sleep hygiene. Rule number 1, the bedroom is for 2 things only, sleeping and that's it. We don't read in there, we don't watch TV in there, we don't eat in there, we only sleep and that's all we do in there. The reason for that is our brain and our bodies look for certain cues. Our bodies are creatures of habit, of routine. And whenever we do a lot of other things in the bedroom, there's no subconscious cues that it's time to sleep. So we need to restrict our activities in the bedroom to really those 2 activities. Rule number 2, the bedroom needs to be a little cool. If you're kicking covers off, it's probably not cold enough. The main reason for that one is everybody knows that the average body temperature is around 98.6. But when we sleep, our temperature actually drops on average somewhere around 2 degrees. And if there's an elevated temperature in the bedroom, it makes it harder for the body to start to bring that temperature down to help us go to sleep. So rule number 2, the bedroom needs to be a little cool. Rule number 3, and this one's a biggie and it's hard to do. When you get ready to go to bed, when you've laid down, if you're still awake after 30 or 45 minutes, get up, get out of that bed. Go do something else. One of the things that I've had pretty good success with patients on is go find something nonfiction to read. For example, if you have a hobby, get a book or something on your tablet about that hobby and read that. If you don't have a hobby or it's something you've been interested in getting into, read that. Don't read fiction, and the reason being is our brain spends so much time kind of picturing everything in our mind, it leaves the brain wide awake. But most nonfiction how-to books tend to let the body start to initiate sleep. But go and find something else to do until you start to feel sleepy. When you do start to feel sleepy, go back and lay down. If you're still awake 30 to 45 minutes later, get up, get out of that bed. Rinse and repeat until you finally fall asleep. Now then, the next morning, you get up at your regular time. Do not sleep in. If you have to take a nap during the day, keep it at under 30 minutes max. Do not exceed a 30-minute nap. And when you go to bed the next night, go back to bed at your regular time. Now, the reason for this rule is multifactorial. One, I'd mentioned before that our bodies kind of look for patterns. If you've established a pattern of I toss and turn 2 hours before I finally go to sleep, we've got to break that cycle. We've got to set a hard and fast pattern for our bodies and our minds to look for. The second reason for that is because of the body's normal circadian rhythm. There are certain hormones that wax and wane throughout the 24-hour cycle. It's one of the reasons certain labs have to be drawn in the morning so we have a reference point. When you start to fracture your circadian rhythm by having a very irregular sleeping pattern, it makes it hard for certain hormone levels to rise and fall, which help initiate sleep. So that third rule, while it can be difficult, is very, very important to do. And the fourth rule, nobody likes this one either, but it is, again, it's important. What your sleep-wake cycle is on the days you work needs to be the sleep-wake cycles that you have on your days off. And it goes back to the same things I just talked about on that third rule. We're trying to establish a good, solid circadian rhythm, and we're trying to give the body and the mind subconscious cues to get ready to go to sleep. Now then, after you've done all those, if you're still having problems sleeping, it is time to bring your clinician involved. And there are multiple options to help with sleep. The one thing I do want you to keep in mind is it doesn't matter what you're taking to help you sleep. Always remember the brain looks for patterns. So if you're doing something all the time, it can become part of what the brain thinks is necessary to sleep. There is a thing called the placebo effect, and it's a real thing on any medication where there is a certain component of its effectiveness is based on the body's expected response to that medication. I can give you a piece of candy that's the size of a tablet. You know it's candy, I know it's candy, but I can tell you, I want you to take this candy 1 hour before you sleep every night without fail. Don't miss it. If you do that for a few months and we take your candy away, you will have problems sleeping, because the body has seen that pattern and it expects that to be part of its sleep-wake cycle. So when you're talking to your clinician about the options to help you initiate sleep, always keep in mind, patterns are a thing, and we want to see if it's necessary to have that as part of our sleeping pattern. Lastly, before I wrap it up, don't chase sleep. Now, what I mean by that is we all have this number in our head of how much sleep we need. Oh, we need 8 hours of sleep. That can vary wildly from person to person. I actually had a patient several years ago that he genuinely only needed about 4 hours sleep. Conversely, I have patients that need 10 to 11 hours of sleep. The way you can tell is if you're getting enough sufficient sleep is, how tired are you during the day? How sleepy are you during the day? If you get 5 hours of sleep and you're energetic and awake all day long, that's how much sleep you need, and it's okay and it's normal. Conversely, if you get 8 hours sleep and you're still exhausted the next day, if it's been a good, deep, restful sleep, you may need more. Now, there can be some underlying medical problems that can cause some sleep issues. You could have sleep apnea. There could be other things that are causing you to be tired. So be sure to discuss those with your clinician. But don't chase how many hours of sleep you need. Chase how well rested am I? And that's it. That's the basics of sleep hygiene. I hope I've passed on some information that you needed. I hope it's been entertaining. If either one of those is true, please click the like and subscribe button down below. I'll be back next week. Until then, get better, make me look good. See you soon.